Hello and welcome into Divided We Fail, a front porch political chat podcast. I am Travis. We also have Cody and James, and we are going to talk JFK. That's it. It was an X Files thing. I don't really know how aliens tie in, but it's a conspiracy theory thing. JFK Files. They have been more redacted, not fully redacted, but more redacted. So we're going to chat about those. It'll probably lead to talks of the CIA, the FBI, the mob, the typical JFK tropes. So, without further ado, Cody, how's your weekend?
It was pretty good. Got a lot of shit done. It was nice.
That's good. That's good. James?
Um, Good week. I'm not ready to go back to work
When do you go back to work?
Monday.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Has it really been that fast? That was fast.
Been 8 weeks. Well, been 8 weeks on Monday. But
Right, that's crazy, dude. I don't know why. I told Chelsea you had like 2 weeks left, thinking that I was right.
even close.
Sorry about
I'm
that.
in ADHD.
Yeah, crippling ADHD, I'd like to point out. All right then. Well, as I pointed out in the intro, JFK Files. We're more redacted this week. James, I know for sure that you read into it. I did some light reading today.
More? Did you mean more released? They're unredacted.
Yeah, but I thought there was more. They're unredacted completely.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that they had like basically removed some redactions and then re-released.
Yeah, they removed all the redactions. At least everything I've read has been unredacted.
Okay. Well, um,
I mean, there was like 2,000 plus documents, correct?
And I think it's 6,000 pages or something like that.
Okay.
that's crazy.
It's a crazy number. There's no way to read through all of it. I just kind of read parts that felt interesting. Uh,
Regale us
yeah.
with what you found interesting.
I mostly focused on Jack Ruby
Okay.
because I do believe the mob was involved,
Okay.
and they said it was the theory is through Jack Ruby.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
I read a lot of the interviews and all that, the lie detector test. But the problem is so I read through some of it too,
Yep.
and for some reason they redacted Israel every time.
Interesting.
Um, a lot of Israel was mentioned, but a lot of it had to do with like the post Cold War landscape, and there was just so much. Um, like I didn't know Lee Harvey Oswald went to Mexico before
I didn't know that either.
assassinating JFK. Um, yeah, there's a lot.
Like, how soon before assassinating JFK did he go?
I believe it was days.
Oh. Okay.
Let me double check. I read a bunch of stuff. Sorry, I'm just trying to.
To gather it all, yeah. I
I
hear
just
you.
want to. Yeah, I want to make sure I have it right. Um, just weeks before President Kennedy's assassination,
Interesting.
where he attempted to obtain visas from the Cuban and Soviet consulates, and the CIA closely monitored his movements.
Hmm. So the CIA was already on him.
Yeah,
Interesting.
which is weird.
Yeah, why were they already tailing him if they didn't suspect him?
That's a good question.
You know?
And apparently he was trying to go back to the Soviet Union, where apparently he defected from.
Run that by me again.
Hold on, let me just make sure I'm getting this right.
He defected from the Soviet Union.
Oh, he was trying to defect to the Soviet Union,
Oh, okay, that makes more sense.
but the paperwork, he never filed the paperwork.
Now, I was trying to like read quickly, obviously, and then keep up on the news. Is they said that some of the stuff that was extended in this release was like the fact that there like was like open recordings of conversations about how the administration was super sussed out by the CIA and stuff.
Um,
Like I kind of like I that was what I was reading anyways. Is that like they basically confirmed all of those theories that like the administration was wicked sussy on the CIA, and then was like considering shutting it down. And that was always a theory, but then now they like released it in writing that they were like 100% doing that.
I believe so. Sorry, I'm trying to go back through and
You're all good, homie.
remember. So I know from what. Oh, okay. Um, I didn't read terribly much on the CIA
Okay.
part of it.
Okay.
But I do know, according to a lot of talking heads, it doesn't directly blame the CIA,
Okay.
but it also
Doesn't.
it also gives us more questions.
Fair. Okay.
Um, and it was over 63,000 pages.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So it's not like anybody's gone through all of it yet. Um, it just I kept I noticed when I kept looking, Israel was redacted before a lot. It makes me wonder what their involvement was.
Yeah, because you think about the only reason that they're going to redact that is if it's going to upset the Israeli state. And so, like, what's in there that they're worried is going to upset the Israeli state, you know?
Yeah. A lot of it though had to do with like the goings ons post Cold War.
Yep.
I don't know.
Well, that was like a major, besides the Vietnam War, that was like a major point of Kennedy's administration, you know?
Yeah. Um, so it was. I don't know. A lot of what I read has just left me more confused than anything. Um, I strongly believed for a long time that it was the mob, but
You say for a long time. Is that starting to dwindle?
yes.
Where are you leaning now?
CIA was involved.
See, that's what my heart tells me. And I only say that
It
because
just
he was going to abolish the agency. So, like, you know what I mean? And one of their specialties is kind of like fucking shit up on the government end.
it's I I don't know. I just I don't believe Lee Harvey Oswald was acting alone, and I don't think he's the one who actually shot JFK because all records indicate he was a bad shot. And
Really?
we're talking
Dive
a
in,
mo-
go into that
yeah.
for me because I've never heard that before.
Let me pull it up.
Okay. While he's pulling that up, Cody, what are your like? Have you ever like looked into the JFK conspiracies?
Not much, honestly.
Fair. I never pegged you for much of a conspiracy theorist to begin with.
So the thing that's confusing is that it says here, granted this is Wikipedia, take it as you will. December 1956, during Marine Corps service, that Oswald scored a rating of sharpshooter, twice achieving 48 and 49 out of 50 shots during rapid fire at a stationary target 200 yards away using a standard issue M1 Garand semi-auto rifle. Although in May 1959 he qualified as marksman, a lower rank.
So he was
So
regressing.
in 1991, sorry.
You're good.
So in 1991, CIA memo revealed that Oswald, JFK's assassin, was watched closely and constantly by the KGB after defecting to the Soviet Union in 1959. Despite determining Oswald was not a member of the now defunct Soviet secret police, one agent noted that he was a poor shot.
Huh. That's almost directly contradictory to what Cody just said. But then he did say he was regressing, so maybe it all kind of came to fruition there.
Right, but why would one regress? It's not like he was old.
That I don't know.
Outside of a physical ailment, that's not something you regress at very much.
I mean, if his vision's going,
Right, but it says here that he was only 265 feet away. We're talking about getting sharpshooter and marksman at 200 yards, not
yeah,
feet.
265 feet is like 70 yards,
I think so.
around there. I mean,
Yeah.
not quite, obviously, because 70 is 210. It's closer to like 80 yards, but still. That is definitely a harsh regression in skill set if
Right.
he wasn't. Well, he wasn't. No, James, in terms of like the CIA stuff, how does that tie into the multiple shooters theory? Or
Well, there's belief that the shot was actually coming from the vehicle coming from ground level. There's a, I mean, there's tons of theories on it. I'm not exactly sure what I believe because I'm kind of new to the CIA theory.
Okay.
So my question would be, so we look at Lee Harvey Oswald. He actually liked some of JFK's policy and referred to him as just a typical politician. So why specifically what is the motive for Lee Harvey Oswald to kill JFK?
Right.
That is a great question.
Did they? I mean, it's is that ever? I've watched like a couple documentaries and stuff, but they never really went over that. Nobody ever really talks about.
His motive,
Yeah.
because they don't have one.
Okay.
Um, so I in when he so you couple motive with KGB saying he's a bad shot and him saying I was a patsy. I believe those were his exact words.
Okay. Yeah, it's all coming together.
I kind of I just don't buy it. Right?
Right.
He made a difficult shot. He, for all intents and purposes, liked some of JFK policy.
Right. You would call him like a typical American citizen
Yeah.
in terms of his view on the
You
president.
know? Yeah. And so I just I don't know.
I mean, that's fair. It's tough for me, especially with the tiebacks to the mob. Like, I don't know enough about what his involvement with the mob. Now, I know that JFK was like one of the more um, risque presidents. Like, obviously, he had like his pretty much known affair with Marilyn Monroe, and he had that whole situation out west where like he had like underground tunnels to bring girls in and out of parties, and then like there was the whole drama with Jackie Kennedy and all that kind of stuff. So like I know all that stuff, and there's reasons to like if anybody had leverage over him, and he didn't want to listen, like the mob could be one of those. But as far as like outside of that, outside of a real motive,
Well,
no, go ahead.
Jack
You know
Ruby
it.
is the tie. Jack Ruby's the tie with the mob.
And what is his
He
relevance?
was a night. He was a nightclub owner who had ties with the mafia. He's
Okay.
the one who killed Lee Harvey Oswald. So
Oh,
the belief is
okay. Like when he was going in
there's
for
no.
booking, right?
Yeah. So the question is, how did Jack Ruby get into the police precinct with a gun?
Right.
He came in through the basement door, is where he came in from.
Okay.
So notoriously, the mob has people in police
Yeah, obviously.
to let him in that door to go up and kill Oswald. Because if you think about it, he had no family, right?
Right.
So the mob could easily make him their hitman
Mm-hmm.
and take him out, and who's going to say anything?
That's fair.
Jack Ruby took him out, yeah, but Jack Ruby had an extensive crime or rap sheet and ties to the mob, so it all stops with Ruby, if that makes sense.
That does make sense.
That's why I always believed or the mob was involved. On top of the fact that JFK got help from the mob and
To get elected, right?
said, help get elected, yeah. And then turned around and put his brother in charge of cracking down on him. And who else ended up shot?
Chelsea just
His
texted me
brother.
and said that we should ask James Franco where his time machine in because he knows the truth.
Yeah. So the mob one always, there's a lot of things that had to happen. And it all happened, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense.
So I always leaned on the mob one.
Is there a tie-in to that theory with Bobby Kennedy as well? Like, obviously, his assassination?
Yeah. No, that's who he put in charge of
The crackdown,
gangs.
right?
Or coming down on the crackdown, yeah. Who also got shot.
Right.
In a crowd, too, at that.
True. I never thought about
So
that.
your shooter got away.
Very true.
So, you know, if the mob had hired Oswald to kill him, and this is before I read that he was a bad shot, he kills him. Ruby gets led in through the basement, kills Oswald. There's no one to snitch now.
Right.
And then his brother, who was supposed to crack down on the mob, gets killed. I mean, it
was during the peak of the mafia's power too, so like it all, like, it's a viable theory.
You watch The Godfather once and go, this kind of makes sense now that I look at it like that.
Yeah, the politicians they have in their pocket.
Yeah, so that's where I've always come from. I've always thought the CIA thing was too far reach. Somebody would have spoken out. But after reading, granted, I didn't read, I read 3 pages of Harry Potter compared. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of things I didn't read.
Yeah.
That's why I haven't said, oh yeah, I think the CIA did it. I'm kind of leaning towards the CIA's involvement.
And let's not rule out the fact that it very well could be a joint operation. I mean, it's a very well-known fact that the mob intentionally would like give information to give themselves leverage in areas that they needed it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know for a fact the CIA used the mob in Italy on more than one occasion.
Yeah.
So
the CIA would never not use a mobster.
Right.
So, I look at it, and that's why I've said it's left me with more questions than answers. Obviously, if I'm going to read everything, it's going to take me 3 years.
Yes.
Maybe in 3 years we can revisit this conversation. But
come on, James, just copy and paste it into ChatGPT and tell him to give you the answer.
Well, I tried asking.
To un paragraph, por favor.
I tried using Grok. Is that what it's called on Face or on X?
Oh,
yeah.
Grok, whatever.
Grog.
It didn't really give me much. It ended up with me taking a bunch of tests or quizzes on there.
They got you.
Yeah, they told me I would make a good politician and that I should work in project management.
Oh.
So that's where that led with all of that.
Well, we're desperate for PMs at Hyde Stone.
Oh,
yeah, well,
okay.
I don't have a college degree yet.
You don't have a construction background either.
To an extent.
I mean, granted, I don't, but I wasn't hired to be a PM. I was hired to be a tech guy. But anyway, so let's rail this into the current administration. two questions. One, do you think that this is viable public knowledge? And what I mean by that is, like, do you think that the administration did the right thing? I'll start with that.
100%.
Yeah, I can't really. We all know I'm a hater, but I can't really hate on this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it.
If they're not going to give us aliens, they can at least give us JFK.
I think the transparency is what should have been done years ago. As citizens, we have the right to know why our president was assassinated.
Sure.
100%.
If this was Joe Schmo down the street, they'd put out everything they could on it.
Right.
The news would be carrying it for the next 2-3 days until it fades out.
Yeah, it is one of those things that's always struck me that we have literal documentaries about, like, the Menendez brothers and, like, every thought process that went on throughout the murders and things like that. And then a sitting U.S. president gets shot dead in one of the biggest cities in our country, and, like, there's nothing. Just the fact that it did happen.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen the Zapruder film umpteen million times.
Right.
So it's, you can show us the video of it happening, but you can't tell us why.
Right.
Little things like that. Like, we still don't know. I mean, it's not related, but there's a correlation in my head. That Las Vegas shooter, we still have no idea what his motive was. None.
Who?
Las Vegas shooter. He shot up the country concert.
Oh, yeah.
Still have no idea what his motive was.
Right, and he was, like, fully fucking kitted out, too.
Yeah, and he was in and out of the news in 2 days.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Like,
it's like the biggest events that occur are the biggest secrets, per se. It's not the secret, I don't mean it like that, but, like, just seems like there's a big
it is a secret,
information black hole that occurs.
Mm-hmm. And here's the thing, right? So maybe this is just me, but this is how I think. I think you have to understand what the people who are doing these things are thinking in order to prevent things from happening again. Right?
Yep.
So if we look at 10 cases of school shooters and the common denominator is bullying. Okay, now we have our solution. Let's address this. How do we address this? Go about fixing the root of the problem instead of trying to put the blame on something that has nothing to do with it.
Right.
Or shouldn't say nothing to do it, something that ties with it, but isn't the responsible. Don't blame the gun is what I'm saying. When Putin took over Ukraine, the first thing I said is, I need to know what Putin's thinking. I don't agree with him. I think he's some names I'm not going to say on here. But I've said from the jump, when looking at it, something is up because he's normally cold but smart.
Right.
And when I'd say that to people, they're like, oh, who gives a shit what he's thinking? What he's doing is wrong. Okay, and I understand that. But if you want a ceasefire, if you want this to stop, you have to know what he's thinking. You have to put yourself in his shoes to understand why he's doing this. And it doesn't take rocket science to figure out why, and that's why I fully blame the U.S. and NATO for Russia walking into Ukraine. But again, you'll never be able to solve the problem you'll never be able to solve the source of the problem if you don't look at what these people are thinking. And that's where transparency is important coming from the government, right?
Right.
We could have 50 mass shooters, and they all have the same motive of, they started taking Cymbalta, right? And you notice, okay, there's a trend where these 5 people have all been on Cymbalta for 6 months, and all 5 of them shot up places in that 6 months. We need to look at this drug. We need to pause it. We need to look at it and figure out if this is a serious side effect.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of those, like the mental side effects, are for like anxiety and depression stuff, is increased depression, increased anger. You know, I know a guy who hopped on or got on um, meds to help his, I think it was his PTSD, and it gave him bipolar disorder.
Oh.
So he didn't get the disorder, but that's
It kind of
the side
exacerbated it.
effects. Yeah, the side effects made that appear. It made him like that. I don't know the medical term. I'm not going to even try and medically do it, but it put him in a bipolar spot because these are chemicals affecting his brain. So I think full transparency when things happen needs to be it's necessary, you know. And like the guys who shot at Trump, I still have the one guy. He's dead. And after that, I didn't hear anything about him.
Yeah.
The
Same
other
here.
guy, I couldn't even tell you his name. So, what if he was part of some group or whatever? And well, I think we can all agree, whether you like Trump or not, he doesn't deserve to die.
Right.
So, what if this group is still doing things? You know what I'm saying? Like little shit like that people don't. I don't know if it's a lack of thinking or a lack of caring, but you know, there needs to be transparency with all this, and that includes in governmental things.
100%.
You know,
And FOIA has done a lot to like help with that, but nothing pisses me off more than when somebody files a FOIA request and they get like 6 words and the rest of it's all blacked out.
I filed for a FOIA and I got told to kick rocks. Actually,
Ooh, that's illegal.
that's just
I mean,
my
I assume you didn't press further.
no. No, I thought about it in hindsight. It was 2020, and I thought, you know what? Maybe I don't need this stuff. So,
Fair.
but I was in a, I don't want to say a mood.
Hmm.
I was having issues, and I wanted to read something. You probably know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I pretty much got told to kick rocks. Can't be released to the public.
That might.
I want to know what you wanted to read.
I know what he wanted to read, but I could
I'll
understand.
tell you after.
I could understand why that might have been given the type of information that it was, but even then, like it make you sign like an NDA or something, you know?
Yeah, which I never did.
Right, but it's just
Yeah.
just the point. But it just goes on to say that it's just odd. There's a lot of like. It's funny how things are picked and chosen to be widely covered public information, and then other things are just like swept under the rug virtually immediately. Because like, you talked about the Vegas shooter, but and that dude like disappeared. But then how long we talked about Sandy Hook for fucking 3 years? We know everything about that kid.
Yeah. The Aurora shooting.
Right.
You know all about it. But part of me wonders, so this is just my disdain for government. But when they cover shit up, I feel like they're to blame.
Or at least that
You know what I'm saying?
they know more than they're letting on.
Yeah.
And then so
Like
then
when they release shit about the drones, I'm like, this is nothing.
yeah, there's no way that they actually don't know what's going on. That would be really shitty
Yeah.
of our defense network.
For real.
I said that to begin with. They're like, "Ooh, the government doesn't know." I was like, "Government knows, dude. Are you kidding me? They're not going to just let things fly around our airspace. We shot a weather balloon out of the sky. They're not letting drones hang out in Jersey for 5 months."
And they're still there.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, they could not know, but if they had not known, they'd be gone by now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We have the best Air Force in the world. If you're telling me we can't take those out,
Yeah, we could probably
we
take
have
those out
serious
without someone leaving their couch.
exactly.
Yeah, dude. I know somebody I went to high school with that's a drone pilot. He just gets into a fucking shipping container and takes out a wedding, you know?
That's crazy.
Thanks, Obama.
Yeah.
Worst wedding gift ever.
My criticism
Sorry.
my criticism of the use of predator drones is proof that I will cross the aisle to bitch about anything.
That's the fairest statement I've ever heard.
It really is, because like I'm not fucking my guy can do it, your guy can't. Like you can't just like indiscriminately bomb people in Pakistan and be like, oh, I was a good guy. Like, no, you weren't. You're just better than the current situation. So thanks.
Right, which like, do you want a cookie?
Like,
That's like the
I
fucking
wish
bare
that
minimum.
I wish that the United States could establish a standard for president that wasn't the fucking floor. That'd be fun, right?
Yeah.
That'd be like a really
I
good.
suppose it would be nice.
That'd be like a really good time. I think we'd all have fun.
Make me want to vote, but in a good way.
Right.
Like
Not
when
to
you
just
know.
prevent some terrible shit from happening.
when Jimmy Carter passed away, like people were talking about like how he's just like one of the good dudes, and then like somebody brought up like a couple of like sus things that happened during his presidency, and I was like, don't you even start. Don't you even start. This man has been building Habitat for Humanity houses every fucking day of his life, and he's 107. Shut the fuck up. He did no wrong. I don't care. If you tell me he gassed fucking Azerbaijan, I don't care. Let me have this.
And that's the thing though. Like, politics is such a dirty game now that you'll never have a clean president.
No, and
Right,
like the
like-
way that U.S. foreign policy works, like you basically have to be a war criminal to be the president, and like it's just like who's the least war criminally.
Right. Who's the best
Yeah.
package war criminal that we can sell on paper?
Yeah, because like like I say it to my wife all the time. Like it's really sad that I've gotten to the point where I look back on George Bush fondly, but I do, and I fucking hate that guy.
Well, and like you said, right, with the Jimmy Carter stuff, like just begging to have a president that wasn't a complete and total piece of shit.
Yeah, because like as suave and cool as Barack Obama was, he was worse at the border than Trump is, and he was an absolute fucking, as far as I'm concerned, like terrorist when it came to indiscriminately bombing people in the Middle East. So like, how can I fist bump that dude? Like, no, bro. You can sweet talk me with your baritone all you want. I'm gonna remember. Pepperidge Farms remembers.
I want somebody to run for president and make me feel the way I did when Trump first ran. His first run. And it wasn't even, some of it was his like policy.
Yeah.
Some of it is he doesn't talk. The thing that pissed me off with Obama, so this is going farther and farther away from JFK, but
It's okay.
the thing that pissed me off about Obama is he talked smooth, but it was all bullshit, right? It was he was the perfect politician.
Yeah, he was my daddy.
When when Trump came in, I was like, I don't need somebody to smooth talk. I need the bullshit to stop. And the fact that he wasn't a politician, like a career politician, excited me. It made me want to go vote for him because it was a big fuck you to the institution.
Right.
And I think that's where a lot of people are still stuck there. You know what I'm saying? And they don't realize that from the moment he stepped into that White House, he was now a politician.
Right.
And it shows. So I want somebody to run in 2028 if we make it there that makes me excited to go vote. If that makes sense. Because these last elections have been
Yeah,
hot garbage.
I haven't felt the vibe since Bernie Sanders, to be honest with you.
And he got screwed.
He did get screwed. I was a little hopeful that Kamala Harris would win, but
But even then, like we all admitted during that election that it was once again we had to pick between the shiniest of two turds. And like
Mhm.
I think we as a nation deserve a competent, gifted candidate who is a unifier and not going to play this partisan bullshit where they just rile up their base and hope that they can rile up people in the middle enough to like swing the vote. Like we'll be able to tell if somebody's actually, in my opinion, we'll be able to tell if somebody's actually a good leader if they can get 60% of the popular vote. If you get to 60%, it's pretty apparent that you are reaching into areas that are outside of your typical party. And so that's a good sign to me because it says that you're probably a moderate centrist and that you are campaigning on common sense issues. Because when it comes to common sense issues, the United States populace really isn't that divided. It feels that way because of the way that the media portrays everything, because everything is this or that. It's very black and white. But when you actually, just like this podcast, you sit down and you talk to each other, it's like, oh, like we want the same shit. We just think we can do it in different ways. Like, yeah. And so if we can get somebody that does that, oh, dude, sign me up. I want to do in
I'm not
the
gonna lie to you. I feel like if us three sat down in an office and hammered out laws and regulations, we could come up with shit that makes both sides happy, and it would be done twice as quick as our Congress.
yeah.
You know, and I think that's part of the problem is you buy into this tribalism, and so one of the big things is right. This is one thing that really pisses me off is I see, and it's on both sides. Politicians come up when they're on stage and they're in front of a national television. I'm not just for Democrats. I'm for everybody. Right? The key line, the line they all love to use.
Yep.
You go to their rallies. You go to a Trump rally. Those liberal fake news
Yeah.
tried to kill me, blah, 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 blah. You go to the other side. The right wants to take away your bodily autonomy, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, but you're for everybody, right? So why are you bashing the other side?
Right.
There's none of that in today's world. And I think a lot of it with social media is it's too easy to tribalize people. You know, we spent years after 9/11 talking about extremism and how we can't allow it and propaganda is bad. And then you look at today's world and political ads are nothing more than propaganda at its best.
Yeah,
You know, hell,
it's
Joe Biden came out and said he ran because Donald Trump said there was good people on both sides. Okay, but we're talking. You're taking one sentence out. If you watch, probably I think it's 3 minutes beforehand and 5 or 6 minutes afterwards, he said on multiple occasions, except the white supremacists. Like, you know, there's no honesty anymore in it. You know, and I think a lot of it is I could deal with being told a lie or two. Did I really think Mexico was going to pay for the border wall? No. You know, like little shit like that I could handle. But now everything's a lie.
yeah.
You know, you got fucking Elon on X every day spewing bullshit. You got people on the left making shit up about Trump and Russia and inciting a riot. Was his rhetoric dangerous? Yes. Did he incite that riot? No. He told people to go peacefully. Well, that's what he said, but his body language missed me with it. That's what he said. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can deal with white lies. I can deal with, hey, we're keeping this a secret. Okay. But I feel like it's just everything now. You know? And there's just no winning in today's political world, and I think eventually it's got to implode on itself.
Eventually, I mean that's we really are, and like to just kind of circle it back toward JFK. Like as much as I hate to say it, like we are. I think we are hurtling toward a world in which the U.S. populace is feels that the other side is so far apart that we will see the murder, the assassination of a political figure. It might not be the president, but like it's getting to that point where like it's becoming politically violent in the United States, and that's like really sad to think about
Mm-hmm.
because one of
Yeah.
the reasons we made this podcast is to kind of show that like we are much more alike than we are different, and it just seems like some people you just can't talk to. Like I saw today there was a just the local news outlet. It was like an ABC affiliate, and they posted about how the Department of Health in Georgia has reported that a an unvaccinated child that traveled out of the state contracted measles, and the very first comment was somebody that said like, "You can't make me believe that. I'm tired of your lies." And like we've gotten that far off the rails that like you see that article and like it's your local news network. It's not like it's a national news network. It's a local affiliate, and your immediate reaction is, "I'm being manipulated," and that's on everybody. That's on everybody who's part of that system.
On the whole system. The system's broken.
Exactly. Like we've done this
But
to
the problem
ourselves.
is there's enough useful idiots to keep it going.
Isn't
Right?
that the truth?
For every one of us,
Cody knows all about useful idiots.
for every one of us that are running with a hose to put out the fire, there's 20 more with gas cans and matches.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not going to be an overnight fix, but these bottom of the barrel candidates is proof of that and only exacerbates that.
Right. But we literally need politics to be a thing that people do to serve versus a thing that people do for a career.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just not there. Right? Like there needs to be term limits. You can't just do this forever indefinitely. We need to get to a place where people actually get into politics because they want to help better the country and the world for their fellow human and then go back to their regular career.
Yeah, and that can be solved through like not harsh, but like universal term limits. Like every single position in government has a term limit.
Right.
And obviously
And it should,
outlawing.
because I'd be willing to bet you 50%. Actually, I'll go as high as 75% of these schmucks that are in office now wouldn't even be able to get a job afterwards,
Right. But like
unless it's throwing around political weight.
it would influence people like you, me, Travis, and even other regular professional individuals, not just these people who went to college for political science, maybe got a JD, maybe didn't, maybe got a master's in business, whatever. It would prevent politics from becoming all of those people, and it would prevent it from becoming this elitist situation that it is, with the exceptional politician, or like if we're only talking local level politicians, once you get to Washington, D.C., it is this elitist place to navigate.
Mm-hmm. And you know what's crazy? Because I've thought about it before, because I've always wanted to get into it, but in today's political climate, I'm not putting my family's lines on the life.
Other way around, but yeah.
If I were to, what's that?
I said
Lives on the
I
line.
said other way around, but yeah, you said lines on the life.
Oh, lives on the line. Sorry. Um, I would have people who disagree with me as part of my team.
You should.
Like, straight up.
Any good leader doesn't want to be
Like,
surrounded by yes men. They want to be surrounded by people that challenge them, so they make the most educated decision you possibly can.
Right.
and I think the biggest thing is that's why, like, I love talking politics. Trev knows exclusively. Um, I love it because it gives me a better defense for my beliefs, my argument, if that makes sense. So, like, something not hot button, can use as an example. Um, I don't know.
Isn't it tough?
It is. Everything's hot button. Let's go with.
You got this.
I know. I'm just trying to think of something that's not going to end up with us on a tangent. Um,
That's almost nothing.
yeah. All right. So I'll just use taxes, right?
Taxing taxes. Got it.
Like taxes. So a lot of people say tax the rich at 90%, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I've had this conversation with people before, and it's always been, I've always said 90 is a bit harsh. I'm good with 30%, and here's why. Because the top 1% account for a massive part of taxes that are paid in every year in the United States. You overtax, they leave with their business to go somewhere with lower taxes. Now we're losing that tax money. Also, like, I mean, I'm not going to dive into tax code, but we'll use that, just the basis of that. So that is an argument I've always believed and I've always stood on. And the more I talk to people who disagree with me, the harder or the better I affirm in what I believe. So that's why it's not only important if you're a politician in high office, just a normal person. Like, you have to engage in difficult conversation. It's not always going to be fun, but if you're doing it with another adult, test your belief.
Well, and
You know,
I get your point, but I also think it's extremely important to highlight, right? Like having people around you who challenge you to do better just as a human, not even
well,
just
yeah,
professionally, but as a human, and challenge you and sometimes do cause you to question your belief and change it because you thought you had all the information when it turns out you simply did not, because it's not always possible.
Right.
Yeah. But
Because
here's the thing,
the
you've got to be
majority of
open-minded.
Right. But
Like the key things
people
are
who aren't
open-minded.
open-minded don't have people around them who challenge them. They cut them out.
Yeah. And here's the thing, like, you got to be open-minded and around people who are open-minded.
Right.
If you look at the smartest people in the
Because-
world, the most in every category, they aren't offended by being questioned. Like you look at the great minds of the world, Einstein,
Da Vinci.
Da Vinci. Well, I mean, I'm getting. It's hard to think of people that aren't scientists, but like, Sigmund Freud. Ignore the weird stuff. Like all of those people have the one thing in common is that they would be excited to be challenged. Like they would present these prolific ideas to like fundamentally change their fields, and then people would challenge it and they'd be like, yeah, prove me wrong, I want you to, please do. Like it two things can happen: either you try to prove me wrong and realize I'm right, or you prove me wrong and then we change the theory. It's so great. And like I wish people could handle that perspective in every aspect of life. Like, okay, if you prove me wrong, then that means that we both know the correct answer here. We both have learned something today, as opposed to being like, no, I just think you're a fucking asshole, and taking it personally. Like everybody takes everything to heart, and I think that's a big issue and a big rooted thing. Like everything in this day and age, and I could be sounding very boomer here, but I feel like with every passing year, everybody becomes more and more sensitive, and it's a good and a bad thing, because like you should be aware of like how things affect people and how your behavior affects those around you, but in the same breath you need to also have a thick skin. Like you can't just be fucking crying about everything in the world, and so it's really tough.
There's a fine line between sensitivity and empathy.
Right, exactly. And so it's one of those things where I don't want to sound like I'm fucking an old man. I'm like, back in my day we could call each other Guidos and nobody cared. Like that's not the world I want to live in, but I also want to live in a world where like a stand-up comedian can say something risque and people don't like try and cancel him, because that's what comedy is. Like comedy's supposed to like make you uncomfortable and make you like, oh shit, like that's like there's a difference between pressing the boundaries and being truly like cancel worthy per se. And like I just feel like we're pushing to this envelope of like if I don't agree with you, I'm offended, as opposed to just like not agreeing.
Right. I think Kanye is perfect example of
You mean
cancel-worthy.
Adolf Hitler, dude?
Yes.
I might get canceled for saying that.
There's a fine line between a comedian making a joke about the Israel-Gaza situation and just blaming the Jews for everything. Like,
right. And I'll use an example, I guess, because I was like nervous about it, but I'm not. I'm my own person. This is my podcast. Did you guys watch Shane Gillis's monologue for Saturday Night Live?
I did not.
It was classic.
No.
You guys know who Shane Gillis is, right?
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, he's a classic like locker room raunchy dude comedian who like makes fun of both himself and everybody around him, and doesn't mind pressing the bounds of both like racial and gender-based norms. And so he was talking specifically about watching World War II documentaries, and there's this guy on the PBS network, for whatever reason his name completely just leaves my mind, of course, when I'm bringing it up. But he referenced like watching documentaries for him. He's like, that's what I do for fun. Like I'm a fucking dork like that. And he's like, but you get a good girl and she's like, oh yeah, I'll watch that. And then like 2 seconds in, she falls asleep. And then he's like, it's basically like, like a Cosby without the bad. And like people lost their minds over that. And I'm like, he specifically like said without the bad. Like he was referencing the fact that it is as good at putting people to sleep as a sleep drug. So like I don't understand. Like yeah, if you just said it's like a really strong fucking Nyquil, that joke wouldn't have landed. And so like you have to take things into context. And that's my example. Like I guess it maybe I'm too fucking chill with like that kind of joke, but like I don't know. I've always liked dark push comedy that pushes the boundaries. Like Daniel Tosh is one of my favorite comedians.
Mhm. Andrew Schultz, Shane Gillis.
Yeah, like that's what comedy's supposed to be for me. I don't care about like the if comedy if you're like tiptoeing around comedy, then it's not funny.
Listen, we grew up in enough dark that dark is funny now. You
Are
know,
you referring to the lack of sunlight or just the chaotic bullshit?
well, we live in northern New York, so yes.
a
Like we lived through 9/11, COVID, like
recession.
multiple
Another
recessions.
one coming.
Yeah. So we've been through, and we were raised on South Park. You're telling me right now that I'm not supposed to laugh when somebody says something they're not supposed to?
Right.
Come on. That's just funny at this point,
Right. That's how I feel.
you know? And maybe it's a trauma thing. Maybe I've just been through so much trauma that
Yeah.
that shit's funny to me.
Right. Right. We could just be fucked up. Like that's a thing too. Like it's possible. It's just
It's probably
I'm
likely, if I'm being honest.
I'm that guy that's gonna make a joke at a funeral so we can get some people laughing. That's me.
Dude, I'm a fart real loud. One of the two.
See, and here's the thing. Say we were at Travis's funeral, right?
Jesus.
why do you
Well,
why do
I
you
didn't want to
why do
I
you
didn't want to throw out. I wasn't gonna throw family out.
why do
Say
you
we're at
why do you think you're getting a eulogy at my funeral?
no, 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 no. I'm just showing up.
Okay.
I'm talking, whether you want me to or not. Um, but Cody farts. The first thing I'm gonna think and probably say is Jesus, Trav. Like,
Right.
I'm a fucking die.
And then I was gonna say, and then everybody in our friend group, is gonna die laughing.
We're all
Mr.
gonna get
Jiva's gonna
kicked
punch me in
out.
the forehead.
Why is my father alive in this scenario, James? When am I dying? Tomorrow? Jesus Christ.
That's fair, actually. My bad. I didn't mean that.
Yeah,
His ghost.
my
His
dad's
ghost will come down and
like,
punch you in the face.
I love my father and I have plenty of time left with him, but like he's gonna be 66 years old this summer. Like, I hope I don't die before him. You know?
Either way, but you know what I'm saying? Maybe it's just a trauma thing. Cody, you're a psychologist. Can you look into that?
I am not a psychologist, first and foremost. I don't want anyone to think that I am what I'm not.
He's a therapist.
Secondly,
Oh,
I'm willing to bet a good portion of it is trauma.
huh.
Right, dude. We grew up in poor rural New York. Like,
Right.
none of us are mentally okay. It's okay.
Based on South Park and Monster Energy.
Well,
Yeah.
we were fucking latchkey kids a generation too late. We grew up on South Park, had minimal fucking supervision. James, I don't know if you had any siblings, but I didn't. I was allowed to pretty much do whatever I wanted. I didn't have a sibling till I was 15. At least not one that I lived with.
I kind
Travis
of,
had two siblings, and he was the youngest, so he got to do whatever the fuck he wanted.
and
Because
my siblings
if it
were,
just kept him quiet,
well, I was gonna say my siblings were 8 and 10 years older than me, so like
right?
we didn't really grow up
Babysitting
together.
wasn't like
My sister was 9.5 months older than me.
Yeah, we went to high school with his sister.
oh, that's
Yeah,
right.
that's right.
Yeah, I guess I graduated with your sister.
Yeah, you did.
But
Either way,
like we just didn't. We
Yeah.
were not set up to take things seriously because our parents didn't take anything seriously. Everything was a joke or you didn't talk about it. You talked about what difficult shit had to be talked about when the kids went to bed, and that was it.
Yeah.
So we just weren't set up for success with dealing with other people's emotions.
That's fair. So I'll end this with toughen up
All right,
and
that
stop
was
being a
pretty
useful
intense.
idiot.
I was gonna say we're getting into
Yeah.
like a therapy session, and I did not subscribe to that.
Nope.
So
I'm sorry. Do you want a refund for your time?
we're also coming up on an hour, which is our typical cutoff time. So yeah, James was right. We can start to sign off. So
Yeah.
with
This
that,
episode's brought to you by We Should Be Using BetterHelp.
I was gonna say brought to you by
No.
BetterHelp.
No, we should not.
It's a joke, Cody.
I
It's a
know.
joke.
Well, it's funny because if we were to get big enough where they were to reach out to us for a sponsorship, Cody would politely, and I don't mean politely, I mean politely in a sarcastic way, tell them to go fuck themselves. So this is just a precursor. I hope they listen to these one day and they're like, oh, you know what? I'm not even going to ask.
That would be wonderful.
But Cody would like them to ask so he could audibly tell them.
I would like them to ask.
You know what? Cut that out. I want to be on that video call.
Anyways, guys, thank you for hanging out. Conclusion: the CIA and the mob conspired to kill JFK, and we would like normal politicians. Am I wrong?
Oh, don't forget Israel.
Oh yeah, Israel was involved.
I don't know their involvement.
I'm gonna have commandos.
They were redacted a lot.
I'm gonna have commandos at my door tonight. Anyways, have a good night, guys. Love you.
You as well.